Picture this. You are at a friend's holiday party. You've got like a drink in your hand, you're hovering right near the snack table, and someone you have literally never met before walks right up to you.
Oh, the classic party scenario.
Right. So you do the polite nod, you exchange names, and then inevitably it drops. The most terrifyingly common, unavoidable question in American conversation. So what do you do?
Oh man, it really is the ultimate pivot point for any social interaction.
It really is.
Because depending entirely on how you handle those next, 5 seconds, you are either going to open up a genuinely interesting dialogue, or you are going to watch the other person's eyes completely glaze over as the conversation just flatlines.
Yeah, and I feel like we have all been on both sides of that flat line. So today we are pulling apart a really fascinating source for this deep dive. It is actually a linguistic and cultural guide originally designed to teach intermediate English learners how to navigate casual work conversations.
Which is such a specific and helpful tool, honestly.
It is, but we are looking at it through a slightly broader lens today because our mission is to deconstruct this everyday small talk ritual for all of us, native speakers included, because frankly, most of us are terrible at it.
Oh, absolutely. We really are.
So we are going to explore the cultural weight behind this question, the psychological reasons why our default answers usually just ruin the vibe, and the specific formulas you can use to actually connect with someone instead of just, handing them your verbal resume.
Which is a trap almost everyone falls into.
Right. But before we even get to the mechanics of answering the question, let's talk about the cultural minefield we are stepping into. Like, why is this question so loaded?
Well, if you zoom out and look at this globally, in a lot of cultures, asking someone what their job is within, say, 2 minutes of shaking their hand feels incredibly intrusive.
Wait, really? Intrusive?
Oh, yeah. It carries immediate implications about class, income, social hierarchy. In certain European or Latin American contexts, asking this right away at a party might be considered, well, borderline rude, or at least intensely forward.
That is so interesting, because in the U.S., it is the absolute baseline. I mean, it is the default setting for human interaction. We almost use it as a sorting mechanism, right? Like we are trying to figure out where to place this new person in our mental filing cabinet.
Exactly. It is perfectly normal here. And because it is culturally unavoidable in America, the anxiety around it is just immense.
Oh, for sure.
We tie our personal identity to our professional output so tightly that answering the question almost feels like a defense of our own worth. And that anxiety is precisely why people resort to the most common conversation-killing mistake, which is giving a stiff, formal title.
Okay, let's unpack this right here. Why is it that giving someone your actual literal job title usually acts as a conversation ender? I see this happen all the time.
Yeah, it's rough.
Someone asks what I do, and if I were to say, I am a level 3 operations manager for a mid-sized logistics firm, the interaction just dies.
Yeah.
The other person usually just nods slowly, takes a sip of their drink, and says, "Oh, nice."
And oh, nice is the universal sound of a social door closing.
It really is.
The reason it dies is because a formal title is a closed loop. I mean, to the person speaking, level 3 operations manager feels accurate. It's a title they probably fought hard for, they earned it, they take pride in it, there is a lot of ego wrapped up in it.
Right.
But to the listener, it offers absolutely nothing. They don't know what operations you manage, they don't know what your day-to-day looks like, and most importantly, they are terrified of sounding stupid by asking a follow-up question that might expose their ignorance.
Oh, that makes so much sense. They don't want to say, what's logistics? So they retreat.
Exactly.
It is essentially like reading the title of a book to someone without offering even a hint of the plot summary. If I just hold up a book and say the title, you have no hook.
Right.
You don't know the genre, you don't know the characters or the conflict. The title alone gives you, the listener, nowhere to comfortably step into the conversation.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. You are handing them a brick wall instead of an open door. So the linguistic upgrade here. The first major shift from the source material we need to make is abandoning the ego of the formal title and adopting a specific formula.
Okay, what's a formula?
You move from saying, I am an X, to saying, I work in a specific industry, basically hi, and then what you actually do.
Basically, I do this. I have to say, I love that pivot because it instantly lowers the stakes.
It completely changes the power dynamic of the conversation. Instead of positioning yourself as this authority they can't relate to, you're inviting them in. Let's trace a few common examples from the guide.
Yeah, let's hear them.
A graphic designer might normally just say, I'm a graphic designer. But if they use the formula, it becomes, I work in design. Basically, I make visuals for marketing campaigns, mostly for tech companies.
Oh, wow. Suddenly the listener has a visual. I can actually picture that person sitting at a monitor, maybe tweaking an ad for a new app. I can ask about the tech companies. There's a plot summary.
Exactly. Or consider human resources. Saying I work in HR usually makes people visibly tense up.
It totally does. People get so awkward.
Right, but if you say, I work in HR, basically I help hire people and deal with anything work culture related, you've softened it. You've made it human.
Yeah, you really have.
Even something traditionally dry like accounting. Instead of, I'm a corporate accountant, you add the hook. You say, I work in accounting, so pretty much everything numbers.
Pretty much everything numbers is so disarming, it takes the corporate stiffness right out of it.
Yeah.
And actually, if we think about our own jobs, like I work in audio, so basically I dive into massive amounts of research and then try to explain it out loud so it actually makes sense.
Right, and for me, I work in linguistics, so basically I analyze how people talk and why they say the things they do.
See, that is so much better than just saying I am a linguistics researcher.
Yeah.
But I do have to push back here for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
What if your job is incredibly complex? Let's say you aren't doing general math, but you are writing highly complex back-end security algorithms for a niche subsector of the financial industry.
That's a mouthful.
It is. Doesn't dropping your title and saying, basically, I do computer stuff, feel like you are stripping away your hard work? How do you give a plot summary of a highly technical job without sounding like you are either reading a textbook or artificially dumbing yourself down?
That is the core psychological friction for highly specialized professionals. We fear that simplifying our work diminishes its value. But the golden rule here from the text is crucial. You must explain the problem you solve, not the technical process you use to solve it.
Okay, wait. Explain the problem, not the process. That is a massive distinction.
It is, and it requires a significant amount of emotional intelligence. You have to step outside your own daily bubble and consider the perspective of a layperson. When you are talking to a non-expert, your technical process is just jargon, and jargon acts as armor. It keeps people away.
Okay.
You need conversational bridges to drop that armor. Phrases like, think of it like, or in plain English, I do this.
I can see how that takes the pressure off the listener. So let's say I'm that back-end developer. If I launch into my process, I'm talking about coding languages, cloud server deployment, encryption protocols, the listener is entirely lost.
Completely lost.
But if I focus on the problem I solve, what does that sound like?
You'd say something like, I build apps, basically the back-end stuff that makes sure websites actually work and don't crash when thousands of people log on.
Okay, that clicks instantly. I interact with websites. I know the sheer frustration when a site crashes during a big sale. So now I see this person as the invisible hero keeping the internet running. I relate to the result of their work, even if I don't understand the mechanics of it.
Exactly. Or take a supply chain manager. They don't talk about logistics software or customs regulations. They focus on the human problem. They say, I make sure products get from the factory to the store without anything going wrong.
Wow, that is so clear.
Or a marketing manager avoiding talk of click-through rates and SEO optimization to simply say, I run the campaigns that get people to notice our product.
This highlights something really profound about human connection, I think. Because by acting as a translator, taking your corporate jargon and turning it into a shared human experience, you aren't dumbing down your job at all. You are actually elevating the interaction. People ultimately just want to know how you fit into the world they understand.
Because once you establish how you fit into their world, the natural flow of human curiosity just kicks in. Once they understand what you do, the immediate next hurdle in the conversation is how you feel about it.
The dreaded follow-up question. So do you like it?
Yes. It's a test of the conversational waters. Responses generally fall into 3 emotional buckets: positive, neutral, and honest, but slightly negative. The positive bucket is fairly straightforward.
Right. If you are genuinely thriving, you say, I really enjoy it, or I'm passionate about it, or I feel like I'm making a difference. That communicates enthusiasm without being obnoxious. But what about when things are a bit rocky?
Right.
How do you communicate dissatisfaction without dumping a lot of heavy emotional baggage on a complete stranger by the dip bowl?
This is where we rely on polite social masking. You want to be honest enough to be authentic, but measured enough not to ruin the party. You might say, I'm kind of at a crossroads right now, looking to make a change.
Oh, it's good.
Or it's not exactly what I planned, but it turned into something. It signals that you aren't completely fulfilled, but you are handling it. It invites sympathy without demanding a full therapy session.
It's a very polite, manageable cry for help.
Hmm.
But let's talk about the most fascinating bucket, which is the neutral category. This is where we encounter what I think is one of the most uniquely American understatements in the entire English language.
You are referring to I don't hate it.
Yes, I don't hate it. I catch myself saying this all the time, and it's so strange when you actually think about the literal words.
If you look at it strictly linguistically, or if you are from a different cultural background, I don't hate it. Sounds incredibly bleak. It sounds like you are miserable, you are hanging on by a thread, and the absolute highest praise you can muster is just the absence of active, burning hatred for your daily life.
Which is so funny because culturally, that is not what it means here at all.
Not even a little bit. In the American professional lexicon, I don't hate, it translates to, it's fine. It pays well. My boss is okay. I have weekends off. It's not my grand life's passion, but I'm relatively comfortable.
But why do we do that? Americans are stereotypically known around the globe for being almost aggressively enthusiastic.
Right. The smiling and the clapping.
Yeah. We clap when airplanes land. Everything is awesome or amazing. So why, when it comes to our livelihoods, do we use this depressing understatement to mean everything is perfectly fine?
This cuts right to the heart of how work culture intersects with identity. Because we are so frequently defined by our jobs, it is the first question we ask. Admitting that your job is just okay feels a bit like admitting personal failure. There is an immense cultural pressure, a sort of toxic positivity, demanding that we either be wildly passionate about our careers, crushing it every day, or actively hustling on the side to find our true passion.
Ah, I see. So openly saying my job is just a job and I feel completely neutral about it is almost taboo. It feels like you are violating the American dream.
Precisely. So I don't hate it acts as a protective shield. It is a self-deprecating deflection. It lowers the stakes entirely. It tells the other person, look, I'm not going to pretend this spreadsheet is my grand life's mission, but I'm surviving and I have a sense of humor about it.
It allows you to be relatable and grounded without having to perform that exhausting corporate enthusiasm.
Exactly.
It's a brilliant linguistic pressure release valve.
Hmm.
And speaking of the pressure of corporate enthusiasm, if someone is lingering in that neutral or slightly negative territory, the conversation almost organically shifts to the daily realities of work-life balance.
It always does.
And the vocabulary we use for this is deeply revealing.
The modern work lexicon is essentially a study in how we conceptualize stress and boundaries. When the workload is crushing, people often rely on the phrase, I'm in a busy season right now.
I have to pause on busy season because I feel like that is one of the greatest linguistic coping mechanisms of our time.
Oh, absolutely.
People will say they are in a busy season, but it's been a busy season for 3 years. It implies the stress is temporary, like a passing weather pattern, which makes it easier to swallow, even if it's actually permanent structural overload.
That is a very sharp observation. It frames burnout as an external event rather than a systemic failure. And when that systemic failure bleeds into personal life, you hear the language of boundaries.
I've been trying to set better boundaries, or I'm actively trying to leave work at work.
Which implies that work is actively trying to follow you home.
And it usually does, thanks
Yeah.
to technology. Which brings us to the most striking idioms of modern burnout. We talk about the exhaustion of being always on, meaning you are perpetually available, tethered to notifications, regardless of the hour.
Yeah.
And the only antidote to being always on is the active, intentional effort required to unplug. Those two phrases, always on and unplug, they paint such a terrifyingly specific picture. We have fully adopted the vocabulary of our machines. We use the language of smartphones and servers to describe our own human, biological, emotional states. We treat ourselves like hardware that is simply running out of battery and needs a forced power cycle.
It shows how deeply intertwined our brains are with the devices that demand our attention. It is a stark reflection of the reality of modern white-collar work. You are either a machine functioning efficiently, or a machine that needs to be briefly powered down so it can function efficiently again tomorrow.
Wow, that is heavy.
But to counter this, though, the language of flexibility is really entering the small talk arena. Phrases like fully remote or having a flexible schedule are used as major status symbols now. They signal that you have retained some agency over your time, escaping the grind of what people describe when they say, the commute is killing me.
It is wild how quickly fully remote went from a rare, almost mythical perk to a standard humble brag at a neighborhood barbecue.
Language adapts to whatever the culture values most. Now, if you manage to successfully navigate all of this, you've explained what you do without jargon, you've touched on how you feel, and commiserated over boundaries, the conversation usually pulls back to a macro view.
Right, the tension is gone, the connection is made. So they ask, how did you get into that?
The origin story. And this introduces one of the most universally relatable concepts in career discussions, the idea of falling into it.
I kind of fell into it. I hear this constantly, and to be honest, I use it myself.
Because it demystifies the career path. It means getting into a profession unintentionally. It wasn't some grand, calculated 10-year plan. It was a happy accident, a side door that opened, a favor for a friend that turned into a decade-long career. It is incredibly common, but more importantly, it is an amazing conversational connector.
It completely removes the intimidation factor of a highly specialized career.
Exactly. It proves you are human.
You didn't emerge from the womb knowing you wanted to be a senior supply chain manager. You took a temp job to pay off loans, someone quit, you figured out the inventory software so you wouldn't get fired, and 12 years later, you're running the department. It gives the listener permission to realize that nobody really knows what they're doing.
It levels the playing field completely. The language around origin stories also extends to how we navigate periods of transition. If you are not currently employed, the social contract of small talk offers polite euphemisms. The most common is being between jobs.
I find between jobs fascinating. Everyone knows it means unemployed, but we all collectively agree to use the phrase anyway. Why?
Because unemployed sounds static and passive. It carries an unfair stigma. Between jobs sounds active. It implies motion, agency, professional mobility. It preserves the dignity of the speaker.
That makes total sense.
The same goes for saying you used to be in a certain field but switched, or that you are freelancing right now, or exploring other options. It is a mutual linguistic dance where the listener understands the reality but respects the framing.
It's all about maintaining dignity while navigating uncertainty. Putting all of these psychological and linguistic pieces together is tough in the real world.
Let's do a mini role play to demonstrate this.
Oh, sure. Let's do it.
Let's use the specific scenario from the source material. Say I meet your friend at a party, and this friend is an urban planner.
I'll be the friend.
Perfect. So I walk up to you at the snack table, we exchange names, and I ask the dreaded question. So what do you do?
And instead of just saying I'm an urban planner and letting the silence hang, I immediately use the upgrade formula. I say, I'm an urban planner. Basically, I help cities figure out how to grow without turning into a mess. Traffic, housing, parks, that kind of thing.
See, that is flawless. You give the title, but immediately explain the human problem, not the bureaucratic process, keeping cities from turning into a mess. I instantly understand what is at stake. So then, naturally engaged, I ask, oh, so do you work for the city?
Yeah, I work for the city planning department. It's a lot of meetings, honestly, but I genuinely love the work when we actually get something done. I love that move. You admit the daily annoyance, the endless meetings, which makes you relatable. You aren't performing toxic positivity, but you anchor that annoyance in a positive core value. So I ask the feeling question, do you enjoy it day to day?
Most days. It's not fast city projects take forever, but I like feeling like I'm building something that lasts.
Again, validating the struggle, but highlighting the deeper meaning. And then I ask, so how long have you been doing this? How did you get into it?
About 8 years. I kind of fell into it, actually. I studied architecture, and it just sort of evolved from there.
Hearing it laid out like that, you realize it's a carefully crafted narrative, not a natural instinct. When we are nervous, our instinct is to hide behind our titles and our jargon. This urban planner completely skips the jargon, admits the daily grind without trauma dumping on a stranger, highlights the human impact of the work, and finishes with a humble, relatable origin story.
It really works.
If someone answered the question like this at a party, I would immediately want to spend the next hour talking to them.
Because they aren't giving you a resume. They are giving you a story about a person navigating the world, trying to solve a complex problem, dealing with the frustrating realities of modern work, and finding a little bit of meaning along the way. That is what people are actually asking when they say what you do. They are asking, who are you in the context of the world?
That is beautifully put. Let's do a quick vocabulary-focused recap from the guide before we close out.
Sure.
We talked about I work in a field, which replaces the stiff job title. We have I fell into it, meaning you got into a career unintentionally.
We also covered flexible schedule, which means having control over your own work hours.
Right. And between jobs, which
Hmm.
is the polite, active way of saying unemployed.
It.
And finally, unplug, which is making that intentional effort to disconnect from work technology.
It's a great toolkit.
It really is. So, synthesizing everything we've pulled from this deep dive, mastering casual work chat, isn't just about memorizing a few polite English phrases. It is about a fundamental shift in how you view yourself in relation to others. It's about having the emotional intelligence to drop the protective shield of your formal title.
Exactly.
It is about translating your highly specific, jargon-filled daily tasks into the universal human problems you're helping to solve. And it is about honestly navigating how that work makes you feel without pretending to be a machine.
The next time you find yourself at a barbecue holding a drink and a stranger walks up and hits you with, "So, what do? You do not have to freeze. You don't have to watch their eyes glaze over. You have a psychological and conversational blueprint now. You have the formula to actually connect with someone on a human level."
And as we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with one final lingering thought. We've spent this entire time dissecting how to translate our day jobs, the things we do for a paycheck, into this accessible, relatable format. But I want you to think about the bigger picture. If you had to apply this casual, jargon-free formula, I'm X, but basically I do Y not just to your 9-to-5 job, but to your entire life's purpose, how would you describe yourself? Something to think about. How do you describe your job in English, and do you enjoy it? Practice your casual job description in the comments. And if you're new here, subscribe so you don't miss next week's deep dive.